Ah, looky here. 13 weeks have gone by so darn fast. Seems like only yesterday that I was clipping the mic on for the first time, hitting the record button, and jumping in front of that lens to share with the world some helpful tips and techniques, and hopefully some money and time-saving suggestions as well. As Season 1 wraps, I feel a sense of accomplishment, relief, and sadness. Like maybe it's time to reflect. Sort of feels like the last day of school when I was a kid. Time to clean out the old locker and kiss the place goodbye for the summer. You know, as I clean up these old props from the past 12 episodes, this gives me an idea. It'd be nice to recap some shows, or even better, answer some questions that came up about certain topics that we were covering. Yeah. So that settles it. This week, we dive into our viewers' comments and clear up some topics that were, just sort of brushed over. You know, I think one of the toughest parts about putting together a weekly show is weeding out the topics that aren't going to be covered. It's always been my intention to cover as much as possible when it comes to video production, just not do it all in one episode. And as a result, well, some topics just kind of get brushed over because they're either too broad or they would just start to cloud up the episode. But trust me, if it's a broad topic, it's going to get its own show. But certain questions have come up over the past couple of months that I just feel need to be addressed. Like in the beginning, with the episode, Light Kit Must-Haves. I had hoped that episode was going to serve two purposes. One, giving you an idea of what equipment you need for your lighting arsenal, and two, giving you an idea of what equipment I have to work with. But questions started coming in like this one from Wayne Durness, who says, excellent tutorial. What would be helpful in lighting tutorials is to comment on the wattage of the lamps. And then Tony Garcia says, one suggestion, maybe you could give more specifics about how you light each of your setups. For example, I'm using a 600 watt halogen fixture, set in a 24 by 24 inch softbox, etc. So indeed, I started giving you people some insight onto the wattage of the lamps I was using for these setups, and you guys really started to appreciate it. It's feedback like this that really helps the show, and hopefully you see that we really do listen. So keep those comments coming. Okay, now for our first question. From the episode Let the Sun Shine In, Reginaldo Suarez says, Perry, I'd love to know the camera settings you are using. Let us know what aperture, speed, and so forth you're using when manipulating lights like you do. Please. Now this is an excellent question because, well, it allows me to formally introduce you to the camera that we use here and also address your question. We have been getting some really great results with this camera. It's the HVX 200 from Panasonic. That looks about right. I actually used this camera earlier this year to produce a Juice Drops promo for us. We were all so blown away from the quality that now we own two, and we've adapted an entire post-production workflow for this. Now we've only scratched the surface on how this camera performs. Like it'll do variable frame rates from 4 frames to 60 frames a second, which means at 60 I can do true slow motion. But unfortunately I haven't been able to work that into an episode just yet. Now, as far as the camera settings go that Mr. Suarez was referring to, well, I usually try to approach these the same way pretty much every single time. Now, I know that I'm going to want a soft background because it just helps our subject to stand out and kind of pop off, whether it be a martini glass or a camera like this one, or even a person. So if you remember in the episode Into the Blur, we touched on focal length and iris settings and how opening your iris all the way will give you a shallow depth of field. And to help matters even more, use a longer lens setting or zoom in. Now someone did debate on whether it's better to achieve this effect using a wide angle lens setting. But personally, well, I like the lens compression I get when I use a longer lens. I think people look a lot better when you use a telephoto lens setting rather than a wide angle lens. I save my wide angle stuff for, well, effect or when I'm shooting myself for this show. So what I'll do is I'll get my camera back from my subject, and in this case it's about 10 to 12 feet. And then I'll simply zoom in till I get a framing that I like so, and then I'll just light it to where I can open up my iris all the way, or as close to open as possible. As far as shutter speed goes, well, I usually just keep it at 1/60th. I suggest practicing using various techniques and settle on a look that works for you and your client. All right, next question. Okay, well, our next question comes from the episode Into the Blur. I want more on this topic. I've been struggling a little with figuring out lighting and focusing. Isn't it sort of weird to be so far away from the person you're filming just to make the background blurry? How can I make the background blurry and be close enough to ask the person on camera questions? Theodore Trentman. Well, like anything, Mr. Trentman, if you want it to look good, well, then you have to work for it. It's only weird being back so far from your subject if you stay behind your camera then try to holler the questions to them. Now, I've had to do quite a bit of shooting by myself over the years, and sometimes that's meant that I've had to get out from behind my camera to pull something off. So with a shot like this, what I would recommend is to check your audio levels, check your focus, begin rolling, then move yourself up closer to the subject and off to one side. Remember, you're using a long telephoto lens here, so you've got room to play on either side of your subject where you won't interfere with the frame. Also, being off to one side will give your talent an eye line, and they can naturally look off the screen and answer questions to you, and you won't have to scream them to him or her from behind your camera. The look of your shot is extremely important in getting your message across. So sometimes, well, you just have to do out of the ordinary things to get it done. From the episode Green Screens and Ham, Kevin Knighton writes, Perry, I am not sure how to tell you this, but I went back and actually counted and you said a total of 51 times. What's he talking about? You need pictures. A hamster. Well, let's just say that we're working on that, and that's all I'm going to say about that for now. Here's another great question from a Thomas Glenskis. Please keep the great tips, examples, scene breakdowns, and humor coming. I'd like to see you break down a scene into all the elements and show us how it's done. For example, how would you create a doctor's office scene in your studio for a talking head interview? Well, the first thing I do is assess what I have and what I need. What does a doctor's office have in it to sell the shot? Do I need an x-ray? Glass containers filled with cotton swabs and whatnot? Maybe. But how about just a weighing scale and a blood pressure jobber? And why not a set of scrubs and a stethoscope? The point is, Thomas, that you only have to do as much as you need to sell the shot. And in my opinion, a doctor in a set of scrubs and a stethoscope reveals enough to me about who this person is. Not much more is needed to reinforce where he is. Framing in tight helps also because you can eliminate so much because your canvas becomes smaller in a sense. You don't need to fill the screen with as many props to sell the idea. Just envision in your head what's the bare minimum that you need to sell the idea that you're in a doctor's office or a lawyer's office or whatever. And then just write these things down on a list and you'd be surprised at how few items you really need to sell the idea. Oh, and by the way, 1,000-watt lamp, housing a 24 by 34 inch softbox, cheap foam core for the bounce. This is fun. We could keep answering questions like this all day. Let's recap, shall we? Okay, for starters, remember whatever camera you're using to add a little depth to your shots by dropping the background out of focus. And having the right equipment at your disposal for lighting is key in getting good-looking shots. And hey, why not simplify your backgrounds a bit and just project a jump back or ETK element? And to spice up your next product shot, try lighting it up in combination with a do-it-yourself turntable. Casting shadows is always helpful in breaking up flat, boring walls. Plus, it makes a great morning scene. No coffee for me, thank you. And it's always nice to mix it up for a little green screen fun, but please be tasteful. Shooting out of your garage just because you're limited in space doesn't mean you have to be limited in creativity. Making your very own turntable out of stuff from your local home megamart is cheap and easy to do. A cool dramatic background is way better than a flat wrinkly cloth, so pinch them barn doors and pay a little attention to your backgrounds. Ah yes, dolly. Remember in setting up your dolly or truck shots to think them through and avoid the curse of the gratuitous dolly. And hey, everyone needs a day off, right? Try using things around your house to pull off cool shots out of nothing. It's fun. And for the heck of it, watch some horror films and use some tried and true techniques to spice up your next production. The comments just keep getting better. Like this one from John Chappelle. These tutorials are great, but how about creating a DVD with expanded tutorials to supplement what you're doing in this format? Well, I'm glad you bring that up, John, because yes, all DJTV shows will be released on DVD containing all the shows from a 13-episode season, and including bonus content, where hopefully even more questions get answered as to how we did this, or pulled off that, or what have you. And now, one of my favorite comments. Makes me think I can really attempt to do this stuff. Thank you, Ron Rick Henry. Well, you know what? You can. But just like everything else, it just takes practice. More importantly, a love for this stuff. If you're going to work hard, and as we all know, video production is pretty labor intensive, well, might as well be for something you like to do, right? My advice to you as you set up your shots would be to, well, become your own worst critic. Scrutinize every frame before and after you roll. Make minor tweaks as you shoot, and then, well, study your footage afterwards to look for areas where you can improve and then work on those. Don't limit yourself to so-called rules. There's some you need to know and follow, but for me, well, I like when I can break them. All right, that's about it for me. Thank you very much for watching. Good luck. All right, Billy, let's kill those lights.
Okay, Perry.